If someone handed you a traffic ticket with your name on it, but you had never been to that city, what would you do? Most people would assume it was a simple mistake. I did too, until I realized that one traffic ticket uncovered a lie that had stolen 15 years of my life. My name is Ethan Brooks. I'm 38 years old, and for 15 years someone had been living as me. Not online, not with a fake social media account, with my driver's license, my social security number, my credit, my medical records, even my taxes. The worst part? The man who stole my identity wasn't a stranger. He was my older brother. And by the time I found out, he had already destroyed everything attached to my name. But none of this started with a crime. It started with a promise. Growing up, Ryan was everyone's favorite. He was 5 years older than me. Confident. Funny. The kind of guy who could walk into a room and have everyone laughing within 5 minutes. I was the opposite. Quiet. Careful. Always following the rules. Whenever something went missing around the house, my parents somehow found a way to blame me. Whenever Ryan got into trouble, they called it a phase. Whenever I made one mistake, it became a family discussion. After high school, Ryan disappeared for months at a time. Nobody questioned it. He always came back with a new story, a new girlfriend, a new business idea, a new excuse. Eventually, I stopped asking where he'd been, because every answer sounded like fiction. When I turned 23, I moved from Ohio to Colorado. I wanted distance, a fresh start. I built a career in commercial architecture. Nothing glamorous, just honest work. I rented a small apartment, paid every bill on time, never missed a tax payment. I stayed out of trouble. Life wasn't perfect, but it was stable. Or so I thought. Because while I was building my future, someone else was quietly borrowing my identity, one document at a time. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday morning. I was leaving a coffee shop before work when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Normally, I ignored those calls. Something told me to answer. Mr. Ethan Brooks? Speaking. This is the Nevada Highway Patrol regarding your unpaid traffic citation. I frowned. I think you have the wrong person. The woman paused. Our records show you were stopped outside Las Vegas 3 weeks ago driving a black Ford F-150 at 93 miles per hour. I laughed. I haven't been to Nevada in over 12 years. Silence. Then she said something that made my stomach tighten. The driver's license presented during the stop matched your name, your date of birth, and your current identification number. I felt every muscle in my body freeze. There has to be some mistake. I hope so, Mr. Brooks. Because if this citation remains unpaid, your license could be suspended. The call ended. I stood there staring at my phone, coffee forgotten in my hand. For the first time, something didn't feel wrong. It felt impossible. That evening, I logged into my DMV account expecting to clear up a simple clerical error. Instead, I found a scanned image of the traffic ticket. There it was. My name, my driver's license number, my date of birth. But the photo attached to the citation wasn't me. It was a man wearing sunglasses and a baseball cap. The picture wasn't perfectly clear, but there was something strangely familiar about his jawline. His smile. I zoomed in. Again and again. Then my heart nearly stopped. No, it couldn't be. Could it? I immediately requested a copy of the body camera footage from the traffic stop. The officer told me it would take several days. Those 3 days felt longer than 3 years. Because deep down I already knew what I was afraid of seeing. And if I was right, this wasn't identity theft. This was betrayal. By someone who had known me my entire life. 3 days later, an email from the Nevada Highway Patrol finally landed in my inbox. The subject line read body camera footage request approved. For a few seconds, I just stared at it. Part of me wanted to delete it. Because as long as I didn't watch the video, there was still a chance I was wrong. I clicked play. The footage opened with flashing red and blue lights, reflecting across the hood of a black Ford F-150. An officer approached the driver's window. Good afternoon, sir. License and registration. A hand reached out, holding my driver's license. My name, my address, everything. The driver wore sunglasses and a baseball cap. I leaned closer to my screen. Then the man removed his sunglasses. I stopped breathing. It was Ryan, my brother. 15 years older. Memories came flooding back at once. The same crooked smile. The same scar near his eyebrow from when he crashed his bike as a teenager. There was no mistake. He wasn't pretending to be someone else. He was pretending to be me. But then the officer asked a question that changed everything. Mr. Brooks, is this still your current address in Colorado? Ryan smiled. Yeah, I've lived there for years. He answered without hesitation, like he'd said it 100 times before, like he actually believed he was me. I paused the video. My hands were shaking. One lie was understandable. Two was suspicious. But someone doesn't confidently steal another person's identity for 15 years without leaving a trail. I knew this was much bigger than one traffic stop. That night, I ordered a complete identity report. Every credit inquiry, every address, every loan, every driver's license renewal connected to my social security number. When the report arrived, I nearly dropped my laptop. There weren't just 2 addresses under my name. There were 9. Nevada, Arizona, Texas, Florida, places I'd never even visited. Then I saw the loans. A truck loan, 2 credit cards, 3 apartment leases, medical bills, utility accounts, and 1 business license opened almost 11 years earlier. None of them belonged to me. Whoever had been using my identity had been building an entire second life. And somehow no one had ever noticed. The next morning, I called the credit bureau. The representative sounded calm at first, until she opened my file. Mr. Brooks. Yes? I'm honestly not sure how this happened. What do you mean? You've had 2 completely different identity histories, running under the same social security number for over a decade. I felt my chest tighten. Is that even possible? It shouldn't be. She paused. Someone has been very careful. That sentence stayed in my head all day. Someone has been very careful. Ryan wasn't smart enough to hide something this complex by himself. Someone had helped him, or protected him. That evening, I drove to my parents' house. We hadn't spoken in almost 8 months. My mother answered the door. The second she saw me, her smile disappeared. Ethan, we need to talk. She looked nervous. Not surprised. Nervous. As if she'd been expecting this day for years. Inside, my father lowered the television volume, but never looked me in the eyes. I placed printed copies of the traffic ticket on the kitchen table. Nobody spoke. Finally, I asked one question. Has Ryan been using my name? My mother immediately looked at my father. My father looked at the floor. Neither one denied it. Instead, my father quietly said, "We thought he stopped years ago." My heart sank. You knew? Silence. My mother started crying. It was only supposed to help him get back on his feet. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Help him? He lost everything after his divorce, she whispered. He couldn't rent an apartment. Couldn't finance a car. Nobody would approve him. So you gave him my identity? No, she said quickly. He already had it. I stared at both of them. You knew my brother was committing felonies in my name, and you said nothing? Neither answered. That was answer enough. At that moment, I realized I hadn't just lost my identity. I'd lost my family. Then my father whispered something that made my blood run cold. Ryan wasn't the first person to use your name. I looked up. What does that mean? He closed his eyes. I should have told you years ago. My father's hands wouldn't stop shaking. For the first time in my life, he looked afraid. Not of Ryan. Of the truth. He slowly stood up, walked into the hallway, and returned carrying an old metal lockbox I'd never seen before. It was covered in dust. He placed it on the kitchen table without saying a word. Then he slid a small brass key toward me. I've been keeping this for almost 16 years. I stared at him. What is it? He swallowed hard. The biggest mistake I ever made. Inside the box were dozens of documents. Old insurance papers, bank statements, photographs. Then I found something that made my heart stop. A photocopy of my first driver's license issued when I was 21. I frowned. Why would my father keep a copy of my old license? Then I noticed something else. Across the bottom was a handwritten note. Ryan borrowed this. Return after approval. Approval? Approval for what? I looked at my father. His eyes filled with tears. When Ryan was 26, his credit was destroyed. He couldn't rent an apartment. He couldn't even finance a used car. So he asked to borrow your license just once. I felt my stomach twist. You let him? My father nodded slowly. He promised it was only for one application. He said he'd tell the truth afterward. But he never did. I couldn't even speak. The first theft hadn't happened in secret. My parents had opened the door, and Ryan never closed it. Every year, he simply stole a little more. Another account, another loan, another address, until eventually even government records believed he was me. I grabbed every document from the lockbox. I'm taking these. Neither of my parents tried to stop me. As I reached the front door, my mother whispered, "Please don't send your brother to prison." I turned around. For 15 years, you protected him. Who protected me? She had no answer. The next morning, I hired an identity fraud attorney. After reviewing everything, she looked at me and quietly said, Ethan, I've handled identity theft cases for 20 years. I've never seen one this extensive. She flipped through another folder, then stopped. This isn't just identity theft anymore. What is it? She looked directly into my eyes. It's organized fraud. Over the next week, investigators started pulling records. Every hour they uncovered something worse. Ryan hadn't simply opened credit cards. He had filed tax returns using my social security number, collected government refunds, applied for business licenses, purchased vehicles, even received medical treatment under my identity. Then came the biggest shock. The investigator looked at me and asked, "Mr. Brooks, have you ever been arrested in Arizona?" "What?" "No." He turned his monitor toward me. "There was an arrest 9 years ago. The suspect identified himself as Ethan Brooks." My blood ran cold. Someone had been arrested using my name. My fingerprints weren't on file. So the police released him after a fine. That Ethan Brooks was Ryan. The room fell silent. The investigator leaned back. "Your brother didn't just steal your identity. He replaced you." Those words echoed in my head all night. He replaced you. Suddenly everything made sense. The random IRS letters. The bank asking strange security questions. The insurance company once refusing a claim because they said my address didn't match. For years I thought those were harmless mistakes. They weren't. They were warning signs. And I ignored every single one. 2 days later, the investigator called again. His voice sounded different. More serious. "We found your brother." I stood up immediately. "Where is he?" He was pulled over again. "The same truck." "But that's not why I'm calling." "What happened?" The investigator paused. "When officers searched the vehicle, they found something with your name on it." "What?" "A second driver's license." I frowned. "I already have my license." "No," he replied quietly. "This one has your name, your date of birth, but Ryan's photograph." Then he added the sentence that changed everything. "And that's not the only identity we found." I didn't sleep that night. One fake driver's license was already unbelievable, but the investigator's last sentence kept replaying in my mind. That's not the only identity we found. How many lives had Ryan stolen? And more importantly, how had he gotten away with it for 15 years? The following morning, I arrived at the detective's office. A thick evidence box sat on the conference table. The detective slid it toward me. "We recovered everything from your brother's truck." Inside were 3 wallets, 6 cell phones, a laptop, a portable document scanner, stacks of fake IDs, dozens of credit cards, and a folder labeled EB, my initials. The detective carefully opened it. Inside were copies of my birth certificate, my social security card, old tax returns, employment records, even medical files from hospitals I'd visited years ago. I looked up. How could he have all of this? The detective sighed. "He didn't steal random information. He built a complete file on you. He knew your life better than most investigators." A chill ran down my spine. Ryan hadn't been improvising. He'd been planning. For years. Then the detective opened Ryan's laptop. Every fake identity had its own folder. Names, addresses, bank accounts, credit histories. But one folder was much larger than all the others. It was named Ethan Master. The detective clicked it. Thousands of files appeared. Photos from my social media. Copies of my signatures. Every address I'd ever lived at. My college records. Insurance policies. Passport applications. It was as if someone had spent 15 years studying me, learning me, becoming me. I whispered. He was living my life. The detective corrected me. No, he was living 2 lives. Then another officer entered the room carrying a sealed envelope. We got the search warrant results. Everyone went silent. The detective opened it. As he read the report, his face changed. "What is it?" He looked directly at me. Ryan wasn't acting alone. My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "We traced several fraudulent bank transfers. They all originated from one computer." "Where?" He slowly answered. "Your parents' house." I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. "No, there has to be some mistake. We verified the IP records. For years, someone inside that house helped him submit applications." My mind raced. My mother, my father, had they really been involved? Or had Ryan simply used their computer without them knowing? I wanted to believe there was another explanation, but every new piece of evidence destroyed another excuse. That afternoon, federal agents arrested Ryan at a motel outside Phoenix. When detectives searched his room, they found nearly $500,000 in cash, luxury watches, property deeds, and one locked safe. Inside the safe, there wasn't money. There were memories. Old family photographs. Pictures of me as a teenager. My graduation photos. Birthday cards I'd never seen. Even handwritten notes from our grandmother. The detective frowned. This doesn't make sense. If this was only about money, why keep these? For the first time, I wasn't thinking like a victim. I was thinking like a brother. Ryan hadn't just stolen my identity. Some twisted part of him wanted my life. The next morning, I was asked to attend Ryan's first interview. He walked into the interrogation room wearing handcuffs. He looked older, tired, nothing like the confident brother I remembered. When he saw me, he smiled, not with guilt, with relief. I knew you'd figure it out eventually. I stared at him. Why? He leaned back in his chair. You really want the truth? I've waited 15 years. He looked down at the table, then quietly said, it was never supposed to last this long. Before I could ask another question, his attorney walked in. Interview's over. Ryan stood up. As officers led him toward the door, he turned around one last time. Ethan, I didn't start this. The door slammed shut. I stood frozen. If Ryan hadn't started it, then who did? Ryan's words echoed in my head the entire night. I didn't start this. How could that possibly be true? He was the one carrying my driver's license, using my social security number, living under my name for 15 years. Who else could possibly be responsible? The next morning, my attorney called. Ethan, Ryan wants to make a deal. I'm not interested. You should hear him. I almost hung up. Then she said something that stopped me. He says he has evidence against someone else. 2 hours later, I sat across from my brother for the first time in 15 years. No lawyers. No parents. Just the two of us. Ryan looked exhausted. For the first time, he didn't look like the older brother who always had an answer. He looked broken. I know you hate me, he said quietly. Hate isn't a strong enough word. He nodded. You deserve that. I leaned forward. Start talking. Ryan took a deep breath. The first fake application. I didn't create it. What? Our father did. I froze. Ryan continued. When I was 26, every bank rejected me. I had gambling debts. I owed money to dangerous people. I told Dad I was terrified. He said there was one way to buy time. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He photocopied your driver's license. He filled out the first rental application himself. He told me, just use Ethan's information this once. We'll fix it later. I felt sick. Ryan lowered his head. We never fixed it. One lie became another. One fake signature became 10. 10 became 100. Years passed. Eventually, Ryan admitted something that hurt more than everything else. I stopped feeling like I was stealing. I convinced myself I deserved your life. Those words hit harder than any punch ever could. A week later, federal prosecutors filed dozens of charges. Identity theft, wire fraud, tax fraud, forgery, financial fraud. Ryan accepted responsibility. But during sentencing, he surprised everyone. He stood up and looked directly at me. I'm guilty. I stole 15 years from my brother. I don't expect forgiveness. But there's one thing the court should know. My parents never benefited financially. They made a terrible decision. But every dollar I took, the courtroom fell silent. Even the judge looked stunned. Ryan had chosen to protect them, whether he was telling the truth or carrying one final burden. I still don't know. 3 months later, every fraudulent account was removed from my record. My credit score recovered. The tax investigations ended. My name was finally mine again. My parents tried calling almost every week. I never answered. Not because I hated them, because I no longer recognized the people who had chosen one son over another. Sometimes, silence is the only boundary that protects your peace. 6 months later, I received a letter from prison. It was from Ryan. Inside was only one handwritten sentence. You spent 15 years paying for my choices. I'll spend the next 15 paying for mine. There was no request for forgiveness. No excuses. Just that sentence. I folded the letter, placed it back inside the envelope, and locked it away. Some memories don't deserve to be destroyed. They deserve to be remembered. As warnings, people often ask me what hurt the most. The money? The damaged credit? The legal nightmare? No. The hardest part was realizing that betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes, it comes from the people who know exactly how to become you. And if there's one lesson I learned, protect your identity. Because replacing a credit card takes minutes. Replacing your name can take half your life. If your own brother stole your identity for 15 years, admitted everything in court, and then apologized, would you forgive him after he served his sentence? Or would you cut him out of your life forever? Tell me what you would do and why in the comments.